Hello. Thank you so much, Elysia. Hi, ladies. Hi, welcome to the group. Welcome to this live call today. Whoever is watching this, so happy that you guys have joined. Good evening, good morning, wherever you guys are in the world. I'm so happy you guys are watching this. Um, so today, I just wanted to introduce myself a bit. I'm Navya. I am a wellness and upcoming Ayurvedic wellness coach. So I am also starting uh, my own channel, Wellness with Navya, very soon on YouTube. Stay tuned for that. And today I'll be your host. Thank you, Elysia. I'll be your host for a beautiful, wonderful, a self-love coach who is also on a spiritual journey. Um, and she helps people to express themselves unapologetically through self-mastery and alignment. I'm so happy to introduce you, Noor. Noorejahan Akbar. We have her on the call. So happy to have you, Noor. Welcome to the call today.
Thank you. Thank you, Elysia, Navya, and Saudamini for being here.
Very welcome. It's good to have you on.
Yeah. So today's topic would be on claiming our power after a stressful divorce or a breakup, right? So it's an emotional topic for few, I'm sure. So I'm so happy I can so much relate to that topic, and so glad that you chose this topic, really, Noor. So happy to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that and bringing me here as well.
Most welcome. So yeah, so to start with, I just wanted to ask, so what made you choose this topic? um if you want to probably start with that.
Yes, definitely. So, I know that a lot of women struggle with claiming their power, and what that means is, especially in our culture, the South Asian or even Southeast Asian. I'm from Southeast Asia, but with South Asian culture. Um, a lot of women in our culture, they hold back their power. So when a divorce comes through, or even a breakup with in a long-term relationship, somehow the women are shamed. I've noticed that as well. I've also had that experience where after during my divorce, someone in my family said, you failed in your marriage. And to me, I didn't see that as failure. I saw that as a success because it was an abusive one. So I know many women struggle in getting a divorce, whether it's a breakup or a divorce. Women struggle to just to just be who they are, to stand firm in their decision and not be swayed by other people's thoughts and expectations, or even parents who expect their kids to listen to them.
So true. Yeah, I can understand that. I've had my own experience with that, about divorce. So I am currently in that process. So it is difficult. I am blessed to have a very supporting family, but I understand that when you are in the society, especially when you spoke about our Asian society, so it is difficult to, maybe it's not that the people are telling you, sometimes it might be that the case, but sometimes it's just that within you there are some kind of limitations, some kind of thoughts that's holding you back from being yourself.
Yeah.
And that's something I need to, probably anybody who goes through probably divorce or a breakup, I find this has a self-discovery or a recreation path, and not that you have failed. And I loved that you transformed a failure word into a success, because a success is for yourself now, right? So you are creating yourself to become a better person, to become a successful person. So beautiful. That was so nicely put. Thank you so much, Noor.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, you mentioned it's all about within. So it always comes down to, are you listening to your intuition? Are you listening to your voice? Are you listening to what your values and beliefs are? Or are you, the fact that we listen to people so much, we end up giving our power away. And this is where the reclaiming our power comes, especially after, not necessarily after just a stressful divorce or breakup, but like any stressful situation in our lives. Are we giving our power away or reclaiming that? Yeah.
So how do you advise people to get it back when you think of anybody who has gone through any stressful situation like this, or it could be anything? So how can one reclaim their power and express themselves? That is so nice, right? So when you are unapologetically saying that, talking about yourself or expressing anything, it may not come naturally for people, isn't it? It is, first of all, that awareness that now I'm actually influenced by the society. My behavior, my thought process, or the way I'm talking is all influenced by the society. How do you
Mhm.
first be aware of that, and then you start, transforming and becoming authentic?
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
it all comes down to awareness, but you marked a really great question, which is like, how do we even be aware of that? From what I've seen, people either wait till the crash to finally be aware. And the new thing that I'm seeing is emotional education has to spread in the world, because without emotional education, people are not in touch with who they are. People are not in touch with their emotions, but instead they're in touch with the stories that are in their head. Like, oh, this happened to me. Why did this happen to me? What did I do? What did they do? And we start the blaming game. So with
True.
emotional education, understanding emotions, or even energy on a deeper level, without being attached to the stories, we become more aware. And I feel like that is really, really important to even start emotional education in kids school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And to talk about emotions, it's such a big thing, isn't it? Because some people may view emotions as a weakness. It may not be, because for them they want to become more practical or logical, right? So they want to
Mm,
keep gaining in life. Whereas the emotional, when you think about emotions, that may be sometimes considered as a weakness, especially when it comes to women, because we tend to be more emotional, you know. And when we see that in the society, it is usually frowned upon.
mm,
So how do we accept it, and how can we probably just say, yes, this is what I am, this
yeah.
is how emotional I am, right?
Yeah.
So it is
I,
sometimes difficult to just even openly say yes. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. We as women have to simply accept the fact that we are women. I'm not saying 100% women are all about emotions, but it's natural. It's only natural, especially as humans, to embrace our emotions. And the fact that we have been ruled in a way by men in society that have repressed our emotions and made us think that, oh, we shouldn't be so emotional, we should be more logical and practical. And coming from a background where I was very sensitive, I also had to shut down my emotions. But it's in the acceptance of our emotions that we actually discover our treasure, our power. And to also differentiate and understand what it means when we are so trapped with our stories and the emotions that are created through those stories, versus being in touch with our raw emotions and not being so attached to the stories that we create. And that is where I believe the true power comes from.
Wow. Okay, that was enlightening. I want to know more about this. How do you even work on this? So how do you start? So for example, let's say I want to now start on, um, because when you spoke about, there are so many things that I loved here, especially about that sensitive person, I think, and you trying to suppress that feeling or suppress that emotions, and then now you're trying to accept the raw emotions, because that could be good, bad, ugly, it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is sometimes so difficult to just, you know be in connection with myself or with ourselves. So uh yeah, so I want to know more about this. So how can we do that?
So the first thing that comes when accepting our emotions is fear in feeling our emotions, because we label it as bad. We label the negative things as bad. But then at the same time, when we're labeling things as bad, we are also in a way suppressing our positive emotions. So for example, when someone gives you a compliment, naturally you'd feel happy, but a lot of us still suppress it, and we start to create all these weird stories in our head, and we numb them.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's all about acceptance without judgment. Like, you feel that this is a little extreme, but like maybe you feel like you hate your parent. So actually that happened to me. So I can talk about my story. When I started accepting my emotions, I was so afraid to hear that whisper that said, I hate my parents. And it was scary because I'm like, does this mean I hate my parents? Does this mean I'm a bad daughter? Does this mean I'm a bad person? But no, no. The words are saying I hate my parents, but the energy underneath, or the emotional energy underneath, is just friction, resistance. And it's important to understand the language of our energy instead of being so attached to the words that come up, because the words that come up are simply attached to the past. And those are words that we know how to create through our vocal vocabulary. But the more we open up, the more we just simply understand what the energy is beneath those words.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that because when you're talking about the energy behind those words, I think that again takes up a lot of self work, isn't it? So to understand where is it coming from,
Mm.
because thank you so much for sharing about your personal journey, because that was good, really. And yeah, the judgment part about the good and the bad, it's so automatically it comes up, right? So whenever you just are speaking, it is like, yeah, this is good, this is bad, and this emotion is good. So I believe that we are kind of, when you said that we are in the men's world, where we are all about practicality and logical, and also judgment comes into picture there, right? So we are actually going in that kind of a world where we are not being authentic to ourselves. So when we were just discussing the other day, Noor, if you remember that when we are influenced by the men's world, uh, the power of within is diminished. We don't even know what that is. We don't even understand that. So how do you knock on that energy? How do you know that this and that this word has this energy? How, or I have this power and
Mm.
I can just unleash that, you know, and be better person in this world where it is ruled or mostly dominated by men, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to say it is a bad thing that it is done like this, but it is just that that is how we are right now. But it can be a balanced world where we can also express it without feeling that, yes, I if I show my emotions, it might
Yeah.
be seen as a judgment or a weakness, right?
Yeah. 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 I like to relate that to desire, which is also related to law of assumption, as we were talking to the other day. So the more we attach ourselves to, so for example, if we keep saying like, oh, it's a men's world, it's a men's world, it's good to bring awareness. Like, I do that all the time too. Like, okay, I'm aware something is not right here, and that's how we highlight our desires. That's how we highlight what we want to create, especially as divine beings. So the more we give attention and focus to what we don't desire, the more it's going to grow. And the way I like to see the world now, like, yes, I there's definitely like men in power and stuff, but I definitely believe in a world where we start to operate and create from our divine being. So because we're so used to like being attached to stories, one really great tip, or even when it comes to emotional education, is when it comes to wanting what you want from the core of your being, is to just focus on what you want, believe in that, and amplify that, while being aware that, okay, this exists and this is not my desire, and so to operate from here. So when we do that, we're already claiming our power. So for example, like, if someone is coming out of their divorce and they're going through a stressful time, the first thing to ask yourself, instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Why, and going down through that rabbit hole, which I did too. I went through a rabbit hole, like, why? I'm a
Yeah,
good person.
same here.
Simply go into your desire. Okay, start with what am I learning from here? What can I learn from here? And when it comes to claiming your power, on practical terms, be at peace with the emotions you're experiencing and start asking, okay, what is my desire? What do I want to create? The more we ask that question and be in touch with our desire, the more we create. And there was something I wanted to say, but I will say it when it comes up. Yeah.
Sure. Wow.
I'd
Yeah.
love to pop
I mean,
in just for a second, if that's all
sure.
right. Um,
Definitely.
so there's this interesting experience, and I know there's a cultural difference here as well, but I hear this term like it's a man's world. And I've had a very different life experience in regards to this because I've never actually thought that it's a man's world. That's not my truth. And part of that reason is because I have been surrounded by really strong women my entire life. Like my first job was a business run by two really strong women. Like the family members I was around, like the friend groups that I was in. And so I'm bringing that up just from the standpoint of what you were saying about manifesting, right? The law of attraction. And so like living in this world where you don't think about it as it being a man's world, but rather just the women that you're surrounding yourself with. And that's your tribe of claiming your power, not just within, but within your friend group. And how as a collective, you get to move forward in that journey, right? Because even if the larger aspect of politics and culture can be more male structured and whatnot, you can still surround yourself with power that is your world. If it has men or women in it, but it's not unbalanced.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So just
that's very, very true. I love that you mentioned that because I've heard reasons and excuses from people from our culture because when I first started my business, people would come to me for help and then they would start saying, oh, but this person is in my life, I cannot change easily. This person is in my life, I cannot change easily. It's all about where is your focus right now? Is your focus on, oh, but people are in my life right now and I cannot change because they exist? Or is your focus on, I'm a divine being, this is what I want, and this is what I'm going to create, and you're co-creating that. The only struggle that we have, it's not about manifesting, it's not about desiring. The struggle we have is just the noise in our head with coming up with lots of reasons and excuses. Yeah.
So true. I love that. And I love that, Elysia, that you spoke about the balance, because it's interlinked, right? Again, it's again cultural. The voice we're getting is, I think it's coming from the culture that we are in. It may not be true, but we feel that this is something that might be happening. That inner voice is so strong sometimes, especially when we are going through a rough phase. Like you spoke about the rabbit hole. To come out of that hole, it takes a lot of time. And right while we are there in that, to even imagine that we are the divine being and we can now be or show ourselves as we are, takes a lot of time. And to recognize that and to come out of that rabbit hole where it's not just, it may not just be about the men or anything. It could be something that we inside of us that we might be feeling, or blaming ourselves, self-sabotaging, things like that, where we feel that it might be because of me, especially when we had a divorce or or a breakup, right? So it we feel like we tend to sometimes blame ourselves for what happened. And the fear you spoke about is so important, because I think that is where all this is coming from: the fear of being judged, the fear of losing, or anything of those. It's so many layers of it. We just don't even know what all factors are involved for us to get that inner voice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as we were, I think we mentioned the other day, I think you were saying like how awareness is so powerful. And I feel like it all comes down to awareness. What are you feeling as of this moment? Accept it, acknowledge it, and change it if that's needed. And also, the other thing, it depends where someone is on their journey. If they're not on a spiritual journey, or if they're not in touch with their intuition, because spiritual is so broad, but if they're not in touch with themselves, then it's like maybe a different topic to talk about. But when it comes to spirituality or just reclaiming your power without being mystical and woo-woo, it's all about just self-acceptance, what you're going through, and you have the
So
power to
true.
shift that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does one start that for a person who might be going through right now? We are sometimes blessed with the knowledge that we have, or people that we have who can coach us, who can help us, guide us to probably come out of this rabbit hole. But for somebody who is not in blessed, or who might not have that yet, who might
Yeah.
not have that knowledge, how can that person come out of this kind of a feeling, right? To come out of that anything that we might be feeling. All right. So yeah, and get uh, start building that awareness within ourselves. And I love the term that you used just now about being in touch with ourselves. It may not be spiritual, let's not make that way, but it just have to be in touch with ourselves, right? So how would you suggest that, how can we start working on that?
Yeah. Also, for those of you who are watching live or you're in the Zoom, do drop your questions or let us know where you are on your journey. That way I can also direct some of the topics towards that area. But I do want to say that I'll give an example of, I'll share my story of what happened to me. So I was in an emotionally and verbally abusive marriage, and I knew it was just time to leave. So I left the house. About 1.5 years later, I left the house. I didn't have the money. I didn't have that many friends. I didn't even have a house to look for. But somehow, magically, there were three people that popped up all of a sudden. One helped me to stay in our house until I find a house to rent. And then the other one, who was my client at my personal training job, she offered me a free place to stay at her house.
Wow.
And so when I finally moved out of my friend's house to go stay in this lady's house, every morning I used to wake up with stomach ache because I was so scared about my ex, whether he's watching me. I just dramatized all the stories in my head. I felt very unsafe. So every morning before work, I would wake up feeling that stomach ache. And I knew, so I was more already in the spiritual journey, and I was at the point of already understanding how to process my emotions. But for someone who's not aware of these things, the first thing you do after or during a stressful time is to just sit with yourself, because you the way I see it is you are your own parent and you are your own child, and you are supported by the universe, you're supported by the creator. So you need to take the time to care for your mental and emotional health instead of finding another excuse to be busy, to ignore your problems, or numbing yourself with other various methods. The first thing is you. It's your life. You're supported already, even if you're not aware of this. Simply take the time to sit and be present with your emotions, with your body, and connect to yourself.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that was beautiful. That was beautiful, Noor. And I think what you spoke there about the child within you, you know, uh, that is again a very intense topic, isn't it? Because now you spoke about the inner child that we have, that we sometimes may or may not respect, or may not even know that it is there. And yeah, how we can first of all find that safety within ourselves, and then move on, and also to tell that inner child that you're fine, I'm there with you, and to be our own parent is so important. I love that point. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, so my next question would be like, when we were talking about the male and the female uh energy that we have around, right? I also think that we have that within ourselves when we think about yin and yang, or there are so many concepts that it comes up, right?
Mhm.
So when we are going through a breakup, or we've had a breakup, uh, it is a natural, it might be sometimes that we start rejecting that masculine energy, either externally or within, right? So, and I believe that we are a, a 50-50, like a balance of these two. It may not be 50-50, it's like a combination. Of course, there's no black and white here, but what I'm saying is there is that masculine and feminine energy within us. So when it happens, when we've had this kind of stressful time, right? So are we rejecting that masculine energy either within or externally? Is that what happens?
Um,
Or are we balancing it?
I think so. I feel like the balance come after when we're able to process the energy. But it's hard for me to say that because I'm a little bit my experience was a little bit different. I was always very close to men. So even though I did have issues with my dad, with my ex, but I was more close to boys and men. Like it was easy for me to speak with them, but I had a lot of struggles with women. So I feel like on a personal level, I had both issues with both masculine and feminine because I could easily make friends with guys, but there was also an aspect of people pleasing, like, hey, I'm cool, that kind of thing. So I can be with you. And then with women, it was hard for me to speak my truth or just be goofy or be silly like I am. And there was a lot of jealousy involved as well on both sides. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily rejecting masculine. I just see it as rejecting a part of us. And the way I see it is we, as the creator that we are, we attract and create whatever relationships we have in our lives, consciously and unconsciously. So in the case of my ex, that was an unconscious manifestation of me not accepting my father, had issues with my father because he was very similar to my father. And it was also an aspect of me not being very in touch with my desires because in our culture, we tend to be submissive to men. And I was submissive unconsciously. I thought I wasn't because I always saw myself as this independent woman kind of thing, which I picked up from my mom. But there was the aspect of being submissive to my ex without even realizing it. It was just like, oh, natural. I'm so in love with this dude and he's all my world. And that was me being submissive. Yeah.
Yeah. And how did that journey? Because I can resonate that so much with my own life. When I had
Oh no, frozen.
Okay.
There was a question from Saudamini. I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
Okay.
Saudamini, do you want to hop on video since Navya is frozen for a moment and ask, or I can just read it off? There you go. Look at you being brave. Well done.
Right. So I'm going to ask a question. The story that you shared, first of all, Noor, it must have been really difficult for you at that time, and it's really brave of you not just to share the story, but to actually overcome it. And look at you, looking gorgeous, and
Thank you.
nobody would look at you and say that you've gone through something like this.
Thank you.
My question was that so when we talk about divorce or breakup, sometimes it's really hard on the people, in the sense that the couple doesn't get along, and there's a lot of unsavory or abusive things that happen. But sometimes the relationship, the
I'm
people
back.
involved
Sorry.
in it.
Thank you so much. There's some fluctuation here.
Elysia.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you're frozen too.
I'm just really good at holding still.
Okay.
That's too many interviews. I'm just so intense. I'm like, yes, just soaking in all of the knowledge. It's so amazing. I'm just like, Saudamini, I want to know your question. I want to know the answers. I want to know your story.
So my all right. So I can give you a little bit of background
Yeah.
into the question in terms of my story as well,
Yeah.
if that helps. So I was in a long-term relationship. The relationship was absolutely fine. There was no problem in it. But I just think that we grew into different people, or somehow the relationship just didn't go to the next level. And then finally that person got married to somebody else and whatever. But it took me a very long time to accept the emotions that were inside me, because I just kept telling myself that I've known this person forever, I've grown up with this person, and I have to accept that he's moved on, and I cannot have any anger towards him, because we had a great relationship, and we mutually decided that it's not going to work out. So if there were ups and downs, it's not his fault, and so I directed all that anger towards myself
Mm.
for a very, very, very long time. If my relationship was 4 years, the anger towards myself was probably 8 years, and I never got involved with anyone else. I just never got out of that emotionally. It took a lot of self-talk and a lot of coming to terms with a lot of things, and not just with the relationship, but like you said, Noor, that it's never about one person, right? It's about a lot of other relationships in your life. So working on all of that, I finally was able to come to terms with a lot of things. But my question is, like, where does a person start? So not everybody has a compulsion to come out of the situation, or they don't really feel motivated to come out of the situation. And like you said, in our culture, it's usually you don't have you don't really have dating, you don't have getting to know the other person. It's very, very rare, and even those people who do it, it's normally one person, at the most two people. So how do they get motivated, and where do they really start to come out of a situation like this?
Mm. So just to rephrase, so you're saying you're starting to come out of that past relationship, and now you're asking, like, how can I be in fire? How can I be motivated to create something new? Is this correct?
That's right.
Okay. So so I feel you have to let out any remnant anger that you have. Even if you think you don't have any anger right now, there's something in there that's covering your desire. That's something in there that's putting water on the flame, and you already have that flame. So bring out, whether it's numbness, anger, fear, sadness, bring it out. You don't have to direct it to someone. You don't have to blame yourself. It's all about, like how a kid expresses anger. It doesn't blame anyone. They just express it, throw their tantrums, and then move on. So something I learned recently is, when I had issues with my sexuality, I was very numb. And then I started to be angry. I'm like, why can't I feel this? Is blah, 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 blah. And then I start to blame the culture, blame conditioning. I'm like, no, why am I doing this? I have my power already. All I got to do is just express that anger. And so the way I expressed it is, I would either jump, or I would just verbalize it, or I could take something like a tool. This is something I learned from someone, where, like, you take a bat and you hit the bed, you keep hitting and hitting and hitting with like rock metal music, and just let the anger out. Before you do that, the idea is you creating a safe space for you, for your inner child, for your parent, for your divine, and just expressing it. As women, it's not wrong to be angry. It's not wrong to be sad. This reminds me of Kalima, where you have the darkness, you have the light, you're embracing it wholly and not projecting it towards anyone. It's just like, okay, energy needs to leave my body right now, and now I can do whatever I want. So start there. Ask yourself, what do I really feel? Where's the fire? Don't ask, why am I not feeling the fire? Because that can take you into blame mode, but simply ask, what can I do to bring up this fire? What can I release?
Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you so much, Saudamini. Thank you for asking that. Okay. Yeah, that was great. So when you say about the fire, right? And I think we have that, And it is just that when I think about my relationship, when you are expressing about, we automatically become submissive, right? We feel that it is a girl's thing, a girl's work, that we have to do this, that. I and there are two voices that we have within. One is, why should I even go ahead with this kind of my job is this, my job is that, when the other one is telling, yeah, I'm supposed to be, I'm the wife now, or I am the partner now, I'm supposed to be doing this, right? So, and there is some voice, whichever that dominates at that moment, it then becomes like, yes, now I'm going to be submissive, or I'm going to make sure that I'm going to keep this peace in the house, right? And make sure that I'll take all the blame or whatever that is. And the other one is saying, no, I want to be independent, I have my own voice, I can voice out whenever I feel that this is not correct. So there is a constant dual voice that I felt within me, even though at one point I just let the other independent voice just go down. I just let it go. And I felt because of that, I just lost myself. And that is when the fear just started becoming dominant. And I let that person whom I thought I loved so much just dominate me and suppress me with whatever that he thought was right. I'm sure that I'm not saying that that man was wrong. He was bad. I'm just saying that is how he was brought up in this society, right? So whatever he thought was right, he did that, and may not work with me. And I didn't know, and that is when I understood the importance of awareness, of self-awareness. Because if I knew that this is some where I am feeling like I'm being submissive, I'm not just being submissive, but also I'm letting somebody else come and suppress my feelings or my energy. I'm just letting that happen, and I'm not doing anything about it, right? So that is when I understood that I think it's time for me to just stop that. Because this happened, like you said, for some people it has to be like a huge thing for them to realize how important self-awareness is. And for me, it was when I lost both my kidneys, and then I had to have a kidney transplantation. I'm so blessed that I have my mom who gave me her kidney, right? But I had to go through the whole thing, because and then realize, I think now I should start loving myself. I think I should not let somebody else overpower me and say that I'm wrong or right. I'm going to decide that for myself, not somebody else. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
very strong and powerful to claim your power back. And I feel usually when people are coming out of a trauma in general, and I've done this too, like when we're coming out of trauma, we go to the opposite extreme. And I was always that independent person. I wanted to do everything on my own. But when I entered a new relationship, then I'm now in, very respectful, loving man.
yay.
I was
Happy for you. Yes.
I was very independent, and I started to acknowledge that I need to learn how to be interdependent, because the universe consciousness is all interdependent. There's no such thing in divine terms. There's no such thing as being independent, because you cannot exist without one another. So in my relationship, after the independent phase, I started to learn what it means to love myself and still have that interdependent relationship with my partner. And it all comes down to boundaries. Fill up your own cup first, love yourself first, and share it over, let it overpour, instead of being too independent. Because I've seen women who become very independent and they go into the mode of, no, I can do this myself, no, I can do this myself. And that is where the trap is, because you want to share too much of, no, I can do this myself, can lead into burnout. And that has happened to me as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This is so good, because especially about yeah, especially about the interdependence. First of all, I'm so happy that you have now come out of that trauma, and now you've got a beautiful, wonderful partner with you. So, that brings me to a next question, right? So when we are going through the trauma, it may happen that it may affect the next relationship that we are going into. If we have not healed ourselves, if we have uh, not even healing may not happen, but at least if we have not understood what happened there, it might be because of that person, or here it is actually because of both. It may not be just one person here, right? So when it happens, we need to first realize it and go through our own journey before getting into the next relationship, right? That's the self healing is so important. And how Saudamini was talking about, right? When, what if you're not ready yet, somebody else has already moved on, but what if you may take more time to move on, or even trust yourself or other person to now start a new relationship. It may not be easy to even think of, okay, I'm going to now look for another guy, this is over, let me just leave it and just go ahead. That might happen probably if it was a short period, I'm not sure, because it all depends on how intensely involved you were with this person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
just like piggyback on that comment just a little bit, of people, women who have experienced physical or emotional abuse. Because reclaiming your power after experiencing that can be really difficult, especially because I feel like while domestic violence for physical abuse is something that's definitely like spoken about more to various degrees, giving credence to the emotional abuse and how difficult that can be to overcome and reclaim your power through, I feel like is not necessarily talked about enough, and how damaging that can be long term. Like a long time ago in my 20s, I was in a very destructive relationship, and we only had like one evening of domestic violence, but there was a lot of emotional abuse that happened, a lot of invalidating words, a lot of just like shaming and ripping away power. And it took a long time. I actually haven't had a long-term relationship after that. It's been 13 years. So yeah, it was, and I was with that person for like 6 or 7 years, and it just became easier to just be independent. And I've had lots of other variables that have been part of that, like moving and 2 back surgeries and head injury and like all these other things that made it more difficult. But yeah, just so that's why I wanted to throw that in, piggybacking on like sometimes it takes longer, and like each person's journey of how long that takes, you really need to just honor yourself, because for one person that might be 6 months, and another person it could be like, okay, this could take several years or a decade, or waiting for the right person. And so not judging yourself in that journey is so incredibly important. And if people or family, I think especially like in different cultures, your family's like, hey, like I'm ready to set you up with another man, and you're just like, no. Like, I love that you want me to be happy, but no. And the trauma bonding that can sometimes happen. And Nora, I don't know if you want to speak on that at all, if that's an unfamiliar subject for people potentially, of why that can bleed into your next relationship. So that's why I just wanted to throw that out there for a second.
Yeah, I absolutely love you brought up the fact that we are also unique. So don't judge yourself. Don't over question yourself to the point of doubting yourself and like, am I doing the wrong thing? And it's funny because after when I got into a relationship with my current partner, I started questioning myself. So I got into a relationship with him 1 to 2 months after leaving my ex. And I'm like, no, how can I do this? I gotta heal first. I gotta heal first. I gotta heal first. I gotta be perfect. I gotta be perfect. But because we are interdependent, relationships, you know who that person is.
Yeah.
Know who that person is first. And because we are interdependent, relationships are necessary. I don't mean romantic only, all kinds of relationships. Relationships are necessary to help, to mirror you, and to grow and evolve together. If that person is growing and evolving with you, And this is what happened in our partnership as well. I was so worried. I'm like, is our baggage going to come in this? And it did. I saw fear in my relationship with him comparing to my ex, and I saw his relationship with his family coming into relationship. And the more aware I became of that, the more I started pointing it out and said, this cannot go on. We have to do something about this. And if we're not for each other, we just move on. We just learn something. So don't put such a big huge red flag saying, no, I got to be perfect first before I get into a relationship. And don't be so hard on yourself, even if you do get into a relationship, and say, no, you were crazy and all that stuff. Be in touch with your intuition. This is what I talk a lot as well, in my community. Be in touch with your intuition. This is not like a one size fits all template where the newspaper says, oh, this is what you're going to do, find the right husband and follow that. You have to be in touch with what you are saying. Is it right for me? Is it aligned for me? Is it not aligned? And move on with that.
Thank you, Noor.
Yeah.
Saudamini, do you have something you wanted to share with us? I saw you laughing in the background, being like, yeah. You don't have to, but you can unmute yourself and share a little bit if you want to.
Not right now, thank you.
Boundaries are healthy. I appreciate that. That's what this platform is all about, is really creating safe spaces for people to share, or for people just to experience it and listen and hold space with one another. Because we all have
it's really great to listen in, because I asked Noor specifically for a link, because a lot of the people that I'm connected with, they don't really use Facebook. So we're a group of student psychologists. All of us have worked for some time, and now we're studying psychology. And so it's, this is something that all of us experience, and we also now have clients, and we're looking, or we're shadowing psychologists depending on our situation. And this is the topic that comes up very often, and you get a variety of stories, right? For somebody like me, who's not only worked, but I've always been the kind of person who attracts a lot of stories from people. It
I know
yeah,
the feeling.
so so you can be on a bus trying to mind your own business, and then the next minute you have somebody telling you their life story, which is it's great. And I really am grateful that people think that, okay, they can come and speak to me, and hopefully not get judgment from me. But it also puts a lot of pressure on me to have something healthy to share with them. I cannot be telling everybody my life story and giving them experience based on that. So this is really healthy, to have a discussion with people who've gone through their own various kind of traumas. And it's not necessary that a relationship has to be bad for the trauma to affect you. It can be a great relationship, but then the two people who are in it, they don't really get along, or the situation doesn't work out, but everybody's blaming themselves, or everything in their environment for why it's bad, and just not overcoming the trauma. So the other two ladies who have joined us are also from that group, and are all psychologists, so I hope that they'll speak up as well. But yeah, it's really, I'm really glad that we had this opportunity to listen to you guys.
Ladies.
Yeah,
Ladies.
Well, Saudamini, I have my other Phoenix Rising Women's group. This is just the India chapter, which is great, and we're always looking for more women to expand to other countries. If you know other women that are wanting to have conversations and create support groups in other areas. And if you want to connect with me offline, I'm happy to give you the Zoom links for the other calls that I do in the group if the time
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been great. I so appreciate the engagement and the ladies being here, because it really is so wonderful when we get to have conversations and have more people share their stories, so it can go deeper than if we just show up and we're doing an interview, because there's always wisdom to be had from the people that we're interviewing, but it's just much more expansive when we get to have additional people who engage, even if it's just one. It's beautiful. So thank you for that. It really does make a difference. It means a lot. So Navya, any more questions for the fabulous Noor?
I know we had a beautiful session today, right? And I'm so glad, Saudamini, you have brought two more women on this call today. I'm so glad. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here with us and asking so many amazing questions and so in depth, because I feel like when we are going through our own journey, we may be only limited to that. But when we are discussing so many others' journey, first of all, we don't feel lonely anymore. We don't feel that this is only my journey. It is like everybody is going through, but then we all can be together and come out of it or be empowered by this. And that's the main focus of this group, to help each other to come out of whatever trauma that we are going through, and then empower each other to become our authentic self. And I'm so glad that you came and expressed. I'm so happy for that. And thank you, ladies, for being here with us.
Oh, did she get frozen again?
I might have gotten frozen again. Let's see here. So I know do you have some programs coming up and places where women can come and experience more of your knowledge, ask you questions, etc.?
Yeah, I love to invite you ladies in my community that I guess we will put the link in the Facebook, right?
Yes, we'll put it in after the interview.
Yeah. I do have a program running which is all about connecting and communicating with your intuition and claiming your desires, consciously creating a reality and manifesting your soul desires while you declutter all the noise. So you're welcome to DM me for info, message me for info. So used to DM. Message me for info on that. But yes, I'd love to have you in my community.
That's beautiful. Where else can they find you? On Instagram?
Oh yes, I'm actually more active on Instagram, which I can share in the chat too. There you go, noor.alchemy.
Perfect. Navya, do you have any more questions? She was just sharing with us her group and what she's got going on.
She's frozen again.
Navya, are you frozen again? Oh man, I know they're having some power issues over at her place, and so it's part of the reason that I get to be here as a secondary co-host. Just pop in and be like, okay, and now we're just gonna keep everything flowing, and because technology is goofy sometimes. So you have your group, you've given us your Instagram. Do you have a website or anything like that, or is it primarily just Facebook and Instagram?
Primarily Facebook and Instagram.
Fantastic.
And TikTok.
And oh my goodness gracious, and you are so brave. I only have seen one video on TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think, do they have?
In India, we don't have TikTok.
Yeah, I was
It's
just gonna say
banned by
that.
the government.
You know, I feel like that's like both a positive and negative thing, because there's lots of funny videos, but it's also really easy to fall down the rabbit hole and you're like, where did the last 2 hours go?
It's not just that, but in India, we've had a lot of, I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but in India, we had a lot of youngsters take a lot of unnecessary risks just to be on TikTok and get the kind of, following. So we've had a lot of youngsters lose their lives. They fell over bridges, they lay on the road, and vehicles have gone over them. So I am grateful that we don't have TikTok.
Yes, that is a good thing that TikTok is no longer a situation in India then, given that. But here we are.
I'm back. Hi.
She's back. I'm like,
So sorry.
Welcome back,
Navya. Today.
As you shifted over, Navya, do you have any extra questions for Noor, or anyone else that has any last minute questions for Noor?
So thank you so much for all, like I was talking about. And Noor, it was wonderful having you here today. And we always end the call with one question. Okay. So that would be, who inspires you in the world today?
Oh my gosh. I just don't like that question.
It's okay if you don't want to answer that.
It's
fine.
No, I'll answer it. It might sound cheesy or corny to people, but the person who inspires me is my intuition, my higher self.
That's cool.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
all for
you.
joining
Thank you
today.
so much.
And Noor, so thank you for like coming on this call and giving us so many insights. And ladies, as Noor has already put on the chat, if you guys want to contact her, please do. And if you want to also contact Elysia, I can put all those links in the group. You guys can just go there and contact her. So thank you very much for today's call. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right. So yes, thank you so much. I'm really grateful and to have Navya and Saudamini. Thank you so much for that and for being here. Really appreciate you. And definitely stay tuned. Stay tuned for future interviews in the group and support calls. We will be having Manasvi on at some point in the near future, an amazing Bollywood producer in India, and she is an incredible human being. We're really excited to have her come on the show. And Navya, what is she going to be talking about again?
Right. Very soon we'll let you know. That's a secret now.
And
but something very interesting, of course. But then again, it's going to be something similar to this, but more on how relationships are important and what it means. So we are going to talk about different topics. I'll put all those details on the group once it's done. Yeah. Stay tuned for that, ladies.
Fantastic.
It's going to be amazing again. Yet another session.
It'll be wonderful. And you can check out the previous interview that Navya and I did, and hopefully that'll be up on her YouTube channel soon for Wellness with Navya. And you can find me at www.globalequineaffiliates.com and of course on Instagram at Elysia Bus. And we will hopefully get to see all of you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. All right, ladies, until next time. Bye.